Hi everyone, welcome to the class of Literary Theory. We continue the fourth module, Feminism and Queer Theory. Today I am going to introduce Sexual Politics. Sexual Politics is a non-fiction book written by Catherine Kate Murray Millett. Millett was an artist, professor, writer, and activist who was especially concerned with feminist and mental health issues, an early and influential figure in the women's liberation movement. Sexual Politics began as Millett's PhD dissertation, which she completed at Columbia University in New York in 1970. It is regarded as a classic of feminism and one of radical feminism's key texts. It is strongly influenced by Simone de Beauvoir's 1949 book, The Second Sex. Though it is distinguished from that work by the way it connects women's experience to the political realm. The author Richard Webster writes that Millett's analysis of the reactionary character of psychoanalysis was inspired by the philosopher Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex. Beauvoir's text is known for being more intellectually focused and less emotionally invigorating than Millett's text. Invigorating means to give life and energy. Beauvoir's work is intellectually focused than Millett's. Millett's work is emotionally invigorating. It means it is giving life and energy. So Millett's work is emotionally very powerful. In contrast, she applauds the more modulated gender politics of homosexual writer Jean Genet. Other writers discussed at length include Sigmund Freud, George Meredith, John Ruskin, and John Stuart Mill. It is considered an important landmark in the history of feminist criticism and has been reprinted many times and translated into several languages. However, it should be noted that modern feminist theory has become significantly more nuanced in the years since the work of early feminist pioneers such as Millett was produced. Nuanced means characterized by subtle shades of meaning or expression. Millett argues that sex has a frequently neglected political aspect and goes on to discuss the role that patriarchy plays in sexual relations, looking especially at the works of D.H. Lawrence, Henry Miller, and Norman Mailer. Millett argues that these authors view and discuss sex in a patriarchal and sexist way. Sexist means discrimination based on sex, especially discrimination against women. Norman Mailer, Henry Miller, D.H. Lawrence introduced a new and remarkably durable idea. You could interpret literature in light of its gender dynamics. You could go to novels and poems for an education in sex as power. You may not agree that literature is the proper medium for consciousness rising, but you can't deny that Millett made reading a life-changing, even world-changing act. Now we are going through the summary of sexual politics. Sexual politics begins with an analysis of the system of male domination in a culture of patriarchy. It shows how it spreads throughout every aspect of society. The work is considered to be a central text of second wave feminism, a period that is often associated with the phrase "the personal is the political," which ties the daily experience of women to systematic issues of gender oppression. Sexual politics was an important theoretical touchstone for the second wave feminism of the 1970s. It was also extremely controversial. Millett argues further that psychoanalysis is a systematic way in which culture attempts to perpetuate patriarchy. Millett analyzes several 20th century literary works with explicit sexual scenes to show how male writers' descriptions of sexuality are charged with issues of power and consequently the subjugation of women, with the masculinity associated with dominance and femininity with the passivity, the state of inactivity. Subjugation means the action of bringing someone under control. Millett went through the 20th century literary works. Based on her experiences, she understood men controlled women with their masculinity, with their dominance. But in the case of women, they were passive. They were in the state of inactivity. They were silent. So she identifies many patriarchal characteristics that were present in the sexually explicit scenes in works by Henry Miller, Norman Mailer, and D.H. Lawrence. The book's critique of sexuality as portrayed in literature then moves to cultural critique and an examination of general ideological bias in modern Western society. Millett emphasizes a key distinction between anatomical sex and gender, the latter of which she argued is an ideological construct. She states that while chromosomal makeup determines a person's biological sex and reproductive organs, the concept of masculinity and femininity are socially constructed. Millett analyzes how modern Western concepts of gender have evolved through history and argues that because they are social constructs evolving from specific historical circumstances, we should now move beyond them and realize that people's abilities and characters are not determined by their assigned gender roles. She states that there are men who can excel in domestic roles and women who can be successful leaders, scientists, and creative artists. And she asserts that talent in any sphere should not be restricted by gender. സെക്ഷൽ പൊളിറ്റിക്സ് എന്ന ബുക്കിലൂടെ മില്ലറ്റ് 20th സെഞ്ച്വറിയിലെ ഒട്ടുമിക്ക പുസ്തകങ്ങളും വായിച്ചതിൻ്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ അന്ന് സ്ത്രീകൾ നേരിട്ട ഒപ്രഷനെക്കുറിച്ച് മനസ്സിലാക്കുകയും ജെൻഡർ എന്നുള്ളത് ബയോളജിക്കലി വേർതിരിക്കുന്ന ഒന്നാണെന്നും എന്നാൽ കഴിവുകളിൽ ജെൻഡേഴ്സിനിടയിൽ ഒട്ടും വേർതിരിവില്ലെന്നും അവർ ഈ ബുക്കിലൂടെ തെളിയിക്കുന്നു. Sexual Politics has been seen as a classic feminist text, said to be the first book of academic feminist literary criticism and one of the first feminist books of this decade to rise nationwide male ire. Ire means anger. Though like Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique and Germaine Greer's The Female Eunuch, its status has declined or reduced. I think all of you have remembered well these two writers. Roman Mailer, whose work, especially his novel An American Dream, had been criticized by Millett, wrote the article The Prisoner of Sex in Harper's Magazine. In response, attacking Millett's claims and defending Miller and Lawrence, and later extensively attacked her writings in his non-fiction book of the same name. The psychoanalyst Juliette Michel argues that Millett, like many other feminists, misreads Freud and misunderstands the implications of psychoanalytic theory for feminism. Christina Hoff Sommers writes that by teaching women that politics is essentially sexual and that even the so-called democracies are male hegemonies, sexual politics helped to move feminism in different direction toward an ideology that Sommers calls gender feminism. The critic Camilla Paglia called Sexual Politics an atrocious book. Atrocious means brutal, which reduced complex artworks to their political content. Doubleday's trade division, although it declined to reprint it when it went out of print briefly, said Sexual Politics was one of the 10 most important books that it had published in its 100 years of existence and included it in its anniversary anthology. The New York Times published a review of the book in 1970 that predicted it would become the Bible of women's liberation. The article was written by Marcia Seligson and praised the book as a piece of passionate thinking on a life and death aspect of our public and private lives. Next, I am going to introduce Marxist feminism. I know all of you are very familiar with Marxism and feminism. Marxist feminism refers to a set of theoretical frameworks that have emerged out of the intersection of Marxism and feminism. Marxism and feminism examine forms of systematic inequalities that lead to the experiences of oppression for marginalized individuals. Marxism deals with a form of inequality that arises from the class dynamics of capitalism. It understands the class inequality as the primary axis of oppression in capitalist societies. Feminism deals with another form of inequality, which is the inequality between the sexes. Feminism understands gender inequality as the primary axis of oppression in patriarchic societies. So here Marxism and feminism deals with the inequalities. Marxism speaks about the inequality from the class dynamics of capitalism. On the other hand, feminism speaks about the inequality between the sexes or gender. Marxist feminism is of the influential or powerful categories of feminism. It is trans-historical. It is completely confused. Inspired by the writings of Marx and Engels, Engels himself argued that The middle class family rests on the material foundation of inequality between husband and wife. The latter a kind of unpaid prostitute, producing heirs for the transmission of property in exchange for boarding and lodging. Boarding and lodging means food and a place to stay. What is Marxist feminism? Marxist feminism is a subtype of feminist ideology which focuses on the dismantling or deconstructing of capitalism as a way to liberate women. Marxist feminism states that economic inequality, dependence, political confusion, and ultimately unhealthy social relations between men and women are the root of women's oppression in the current social context. This idea was laid by Engels. A form of feminism based on the ideas of Marx. It combines the concept of patriarchy with the key concepts of Marxism. Believe that women's oppression is a symptom of a more fundamental form of oppression. Women are not oppressed by men or by sexism, but by capitalism itself. The position of women in the family serves the interests of the economy and the ruling class. Marxist feminism investigates the myriad ways or multitude ways in which women are oppressed through systems of capitalism and private property. We already understood women treated just like as a object. They treated as a private property. Accordingly, a radical restructuring of the economics which is based on capitalism is a requisite for the actual liberation of women because their labor often remains uncompensated. Still, we can see or we can face the same situation in our lives. Now we are going through the Marxist feminists. The goal of the Marxist feminist framework is to liberate women by transforming the conditions of their oppression and exploitation. Marxist feminists argue that working class women are exploited by both patriarchy and capitalism. Most feminists think that gender is the most important division or conflict in society. But Marxist feminists see social class as being of equal importance. Marxist feminist perspective adapts the principles of Marxism to emphasize how capitalism uses the family oppresses women and the harmful consequences of the family to women's lives. Marxist feminists look on class and gender inequalities as dual systems of oppression, with both being very powerful and independent systems. Marxist feminists often argue that class and gender inequalities reinforce each other and create groups that are doubly oppressed. Charlotte Perkins Gilman, Selma James, Sylvia Federici, and Heidi Hartman constituted the spokespersons of the movement at different junctures. Spokespersons means a person who speaks for another. In Malayalam, Vaktavu. Margaret Benston's Marxist feminist study, The Political Economy of Women's Liberation, emphasizes the value of the unpaid labor women perform within the family. We already discussed this point before. This labor, which sustains the current labor force and nurtures the next generation, comes at no cost to the owners of the means of production. Additionally, the responsibility of the male breadwinner to support his wife and children fetters his ability to withdraw his labor power in defense of his class interests. In so doing, it helps reinforce the inequitable capitalist economic system. The next book I want to introduce, Rosemary Tung's book, Feminist Thought, A Comprehensive Introduction. In this book, Marxist feminists identify how work shapes consciousness and women's work shapes her status and self-image. Therefore, Marxist feminists are primarily concerned with the division of labor that keeps women in the domestic sphere of the family and men in the workplace. Women's position within the family may help explain the problem of developing work-class consciousness. As with exchange relationships in general in capitalism, underlying these seemingly equal exchange relationships are power relationships. Various relationships such as those between males and females, relationships in the family, prostitution, surrogate motherhood, etc. may appear to express equality. But because of the underlying unequal power relations conceal greater inequalities. So Marxist feminism main aim is to eradicate inequalities between gender and class. Next, I want to introduce lesbian feminism. What is lesbian? Lesbian means a homosexual woman. Often a woman with confusion in one's gender identities is called a lesbian in a derogatory way. Then what is lesbian feminism? Lesbian feminism emerged during the second wave of feminist activism in the United States. It arose as a resistance to the second wave feminism, which essentialized all women and men are heterosexual. Heterosexual means sexually attracted to people of the opposite sex. It particularly rejects heteronormativity, the assumption that everyone is straight and society should be structured to serve heterosexual needs. Heteronormativity means the attitude that heterosexuality is the only normal and natural expression of sexuality. സ്ത്രീയും പുരുഷനും തമ്മിലുള്ള സെക്ഷൽ അട്രാക്ഷൻ മാത്രമാണ് ശരിയെന്നുള്ള ഒരു കാഴ്ചപ്പാടാണ് ഹെറ്ററോനോർമാറ്റിവിറ്റി എന്നതുകൊണ്ട് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. തീർച്ചയായും ലെസ്ബിയൻ ഫെമിനിസം ഈ ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡിന് എതിരായിരുന്നു. This critical school of the 1970s and 1980s attempted to mark lesbians as a peculiar category within women's liberation movements. According to lesbian feminists, the only true feminists are lesbians because they choose women as sexual partners. Heterosexuality to them is a form of sexual as well as political subordination to patriarchy. Subordination means the act of giving someone less importance or power. The Leeds British feminists argued for a radical separation from heterosexual women since lesbianism constituted the essence to them. The Leeds Revolutionary Feminist Group was a feminist organization achieved in the United Kingdom in the 1970s and 1980s. While there were a number of contemporary revolutionary feminist organizations in the UK, the Leeds group was internationally significant. Lesbian feminists challenged homophobia and heterosexism in the women's movement, fought against sexism in the LGBT movement, struggled against anti-lesbianism and anti-feminism in other social movements, and carved out political, social, and cultural niches for themselves. Homophobia means dislike against gay people. Gay പീപ്പിളിനോടുള്ള വെറുപ്പിനെയാണ് ഹോമോഫോബിയ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. നെക്സ്റ്റ് ടേം ഈസ് ഹെട്രോസെക്സിസം. It is the discrimination against non-heterosexual people based on the belief that heterosexuality is the only normal and natural expression of sexuality. അതായത് ഹെട്രോസെക്ഷൽ അല്ലാത്ത ജനങ്ങളോടുള്ള വെറുപ്പിനെയാണ് ഹെറ്ററോസെക്സിസം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഹെട്രോസെക്ഷൽ പീപ്പിൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഓപ്പോസിറ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ജെൻഡേഴ്സിനോട് സെക്ഷലി അട്രാക്റ്റഡ് ആകുന്ന ജനങ്ങൾ. അത്തരത്തിലല്ലാത്ത ജനങ്ങളോടുള്ള എതിർപ്പിനെയാണ് ഹെറ്ററോസെക്സിസം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഹോമോഫോബിയ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഗേ പീപ്പിളിനോടുള്ള വിദ്വേഷം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വെറുപ്പ്. LGBT മൂവ്മെൻറ്റ്. L for lesbians, G for gay, B for bisexuals, and T for transgenders. So we can see that through lesbian feminism, lesbian feminists started to fight against homophobia, heterosexism. They also fought against sexism in the LGBT movement. They were against anti-lesbianism, anti-feminism. In other social movements, political, social and cultural niches for themselves. Niches means a status, job for which a person is best fitted. തീർച്ചയായും ലെസ്ബിയൻ ഫെമിനിറ്റ്സ് വളരെ ശക്തമായിട്ട് ഹോമോഫോബിയ, ഹെട്രോസെക്സിസം, LGBT മൂവ്മെൻറ്റ്, ആൻറ്റി ലെസ്ബിയനിസം, ആൻറ്റി ഫെമിനിസം, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ സമൂഹത്തിലുള്ള മറ്റ് സാമൂഹികവും രാഷ്ട്രീയപരവുമായിട്ടുള്ള കാഴ്ചപ്പാടുകൾക്കെതിരെ, അത്തരം അനീതികൾക്കെതിരെ വളരെ ശക്തമായിട്ട് തന്നെ പോരാടി. Many lesbian feminists advocated separatism, living whenever and wherever possible in lesbian feminist communities and spending money and time only with other lesbian feminists. Lesbian feminists also developed radical critiques of patriarchy, sexism, misogyny, homophobia, heterosexism, and the social construction of sex, gender, and sexuality. For many lesbian feminists, lesbianism was the logical outcome of feminism. Some of the slogans of lesbian feminism, popularized through the working class movements, were "Feminism is the complaint, feminism is the solution. Feminism is the theory, lesbianism is the practice. And an army of lovers cannot fail." So all of you please go through the slogans well. The activist nature of lesbianism in turn led to the lesbian reading of literature, where literary texts of the present and past were evaluated in the light of lesbian recognitions and moments of identification. Lesbian criticism looked for close friendships between single women, and this led to often revealing appreciations of the plays, novels, and poems involved. The leading lesbian critics were Charlotte Bunch, Rita Mae Brown, Anne Rich, Audre Lorde, Marilyn Fry, Mary Daly, and Sheila Jeffries, among others. Betty Friedan referred to lesbianism as the Lavender Menace. This phrase referred to her view that incorporating lesbianism in the feminist agenda would undermine the credibility of the women's movement overall. Alice Eccles in The Eruption of Difference describes the emergence of lesbian feminism during this time and the creation of lesbian separatist movement in response to the homophobic sentiments expressed by heterosexual feminist organizations of that era. Separatism means the advocacy of cultural, ethnic, tribal, religious, racial, governmental or gender separation from the larger group. ഒരു വലിയ വിഭാഗത്തിൽ നിന്ന് കൾച്ചറൽ, എത്നിക്, ട്രൈബൽ, റിലീജിയസ്, റേഷ്യൽ, ഗവൺമെൻറ്റൽ ഓർ ജെൻഡർ എന്നീ തരത്തിലുള്ള സെപ്പറേഷൻ കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ട് മാറ്റി നിർത്തുക. അതിനെയാണ് സെപ്പറേറ്റിസം എന്ന ടേം കൊണ്ട് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. I think this is enough for today's class. We covered Sexual Politics by Kate Millett, then introduced the terms Marxist feminism and lesbian feminism. You please go through the notes well. Take care. Stay at home. Thank you.